You ever have something in your life that you carry with you every day, quietly, silently, but it shapes you in ways even you don't always understand? That's what this story is about. It's not just about a secret. It's about a relationship. It's about a father and a son, and everything that happens in between the things we say and the things we don't. I was 13 the first time I realized my dad wasn't like the other dads. I don't mean in some flashy or strange way. It was in the little things. Other dads yelled when their kids messed up. My dad? He just gave you that look, the kind that made you wish he had yelled because the silence said way more. He wasn't a talkative man. He wasn't cold, not really, but he kept things close to the chest. Growing up, I always wondered what went on in that head of his. He'd work long hours, come home with dust on his boots, and eat dinner like it was the only quiet moment he had all day. We didn't talk about feelings. We didn't talk about fear. We just existed, side by side. But there was this one thing, this one secret that hung between us like invisible string. It started one summer. I was going through a rough time. School was getting tougher, I was feeling alone, and honestly, I was starting to drift. My grades slipped, my attitude shifted, and I started spending more time with the wrong kind of people. The kind who wore anger like armor and thought being cold was cool. My dad noticed, of course, but he didn't lecture me, not even once. He just started waking up earlier, not to say anything but to drive me to school himself. No music, no small talk, just the sound of the engine and the occasional sip of his coffee. At first, it felt awkward. But over time, those silent rides became comforting. Like even when I was lost, I wasn't alone. He was there. Always. One morning, out of nowhere, he pulled the truck over. We weren't at school yet. I looked at him, confused, and he just stared straight ahead and said, "You ever feel like you're stuck in your own skin?" I didn't know what to say. I'd never heard him talk like that. I nodded slowly, not trusting myself to speak. And then he said something I'll never forget. "When I was your age, I used to sit in the woods behind my school just to breathe, just to feel like something made sense." That was it. He didn't say anything else, just pulled back onto the road and dropped me off like usual. But something shifted that day. It was the first time I realized my dad had been a kid once too, that he had a past, maybe even pain. And maybe, just maybe, the way he loved wasn't loud, but it was steady and deep. The secret? It wasn't some dramatic revelation. It wasn't a scandal or a hidden family history. The secret between my dad and me was the quiet way he showed up. The unspoken understanding that no matter how far I drifted, he was there. Not to fix me, not to scold me, just to be there. As I got older, I started to notice the pattern. The more I struggled, the quieter he became, but his actions got louder. When I failed my driver's test, he didn't say a word, just handed me the keys and said, "You're driving to school tomorrow." When I didn't get into my first choice college, he grilled burgers that night like it was just another Friday. It used to frustrate me, honestly. I wanted big speeches, emotional talks, maybe even a little drama. But he gave me consistency. He gave me presence. And one night, when I was in my early 20s, I finally asked him, "Why didn't you ever yell at me or sit me down and tell me what to do?" He was fixing something in the garage, as always. He didn't look at me right away, just kept working, and then said, "Because I trusted you'd figure it out, and I didn't want you to confuse my voice with your own." That hit me like a punch in the chest. All those years I thought he was being distant. He was actually giving me space to become myself. He wasn't absent. He was patient. As the years passed, the roles started to shift, a little. I'd call him to ask how to fix the leaky faucet. I'd bring over groceries when he didn't ask. He never liked help, but he let me anyway. Maybe because he knew that was how I showed up. Then came the call. You know the one. The kind that flips your world inside out. It was a Tuesday. I was halfway through a meeting when my phone buzzed. Hospital, heart attack, critical. Everything slowed down. I don't even remember the drive there. I just remember standing in that white room with the soft beeping of machines and the quiet sound of him breathing. Still strong, still silent. I sat beside him, holding his hand, and I told him everything. All the words we never said. I told him I loved him, that I saw him, that I knew, that his kind of love saved me. He squeezed my hand, barely. But it was enough. That was his way. Always just enough. He pulled through, by the way, because of course he did. That man was tougher than steel and more stubborn than time. After that, our conversations got a little longer. Not deep necessarily, but warmer, softer. We'd talk about the weather, sure, but sometimes he'd ask me about work, about life, about how I was really doing. And then one day he said something that cracked me wide open. We were watching a baseball game, and during a commercial break, he turned to me and said, "You turned out all right, kid. Better than all right." That was it. But from him, that was everything. Now looking back, I realize the secret between us was never a single moment. It was a collection of quiet gestures, late-night drives, subtle glances, and half smiles that spoke volumes. It was in the sacrifices he never named, the love he never labeled, the pain he never passed down. That secret, it made me the man I am today. Not perfect, but grounded, thoughtful. Someone who understands that love doesn't always need fireworks. Sometimes it just needs presence, steadiness, a kind of loyalty that doesn't beg for attention. It just is. So if you're listening to this and thinking about your own father, or maybe the absence of one, just know this. Not all love looks the same. Not all bonds need to be loud to be strong. Sometimes, the most powerful thing someone can do for you is simply be there. Silently, consistently, lovingly. And that was the secret between my dad and me. Soft outro music fades in. Thanks for listening.